It's time for another Dice Tower review with Randy White and Mark Streed.
Hello folks, welcome to Board Game Corner. I'm Mark.
And to indoctrinate you in the ways of elemental evil, I am the Mad Monk Randolfo. But you can call me Randy.
Whew, that's good. I was worried for a second there. This week we're taking a look at D&D's Temple of Elemental Evil, and our review copy was provided by the Haunted Game Cafe. You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Temple of Elemental Evil is brought to you by Wizards of the Coast and WizKids. It plays 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, in approximately 60 minutes, not counting swearing, wailing, and gnashing of teeth.
So true. All right, so let's dive deep into those dungeons and take on some monsters. Evil gathers beneath the somber hills, north of Waterdeep, near the High Forest. 4 cults dedicated to the Princess of Elemental Evil have formed an uneasy alliance to gain untold power at great cost to the rest of Faerun. You and your fellow heroes have been called upon once again. Are you ready for adventure? The Dungeons & Dragons Temple of Elemental Evil adventure system is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. You and your fellow heroes must work as a team to succeed in the adventures that unfold around and beneath the somber hills. You either win together or lose together. Luckily for your party, there are magical healing surges that can aid you on your quest. Each player selects a hero. Choose from the human fighter, halfling rogue, dwarven cleric, the elf wizard, or the human ranger. Your heroes will explore the dungeon beneath the somber hills, solve mysteries, fight monsters, and uncover magical treasure. After setting up the required scenario, stacking the dungeon tiles, prepping the creatures and needed components, then play can begin. You all begin your quest on the start tile. Just like previous versions of the system, you have a sequence of play: hero phase, exploration phase, and villain phase. On your hero phase, heroes have several options. After moving, your hero can do one of the following: move again, attack, disable a trap, or perhaps other cards may give you additional uses for your actions. When attacking villains or monsters, a hero makes attacks using either his or her power cards or the powers of treasure cards. A hero's power cards represent weapons, physical training, arcane spells, or divine prayers. It just depends on the hero's class. For each enemy a hero attacks, you roll the die and add the power's attack bonus. If the result of the die roll plus the bonus is equal to or greater than the target's armor class, the attack hits. If it does hit, you deal the damage listed to the monster. Damage that reduces a monster's health to 0 defeats them. They are removed from the board and their card is added to the collective experience pile. And you draw 1 card from the treasure deck, only 1, regardless of how many creatures you just destroyed. The exploration phase is the phase in which you add new dungeon tiles, draw monster cards, and place traps. If your hero occupies a square along an unexplored edge, then draw a dungeon tile, place it with its triangle pointing to the unexplored edge of the tile your hero is exploring from. Place monsters and traps, if any, on the new tile. And when placing the new monster on the tile, place its corresponding card in front of you to show you control that monster. Then choose face-down traps tokens from the pile and place it where indicated on the new tile. Now to the villain phase. This is the phase in which you draw and play encounter cards, which are so nasty, as well as when you activate the main villain and any monster cards you have in front of you. First, if you didn't play a dungeon tile in your exploration phase, or if you placed a dungeon tile with a black triangle, then you draw and play an encounter card. You can cancel encounter cards before applying their effects by spending 5 experience points from the party experience pile. These encounter cards can be quite nasty, so please beware. Next, if the main villain is in play, they activate first before all the other monsters. Then activate each of your monster cards in turn that you control, and in the order you drew them. Follow the tactics on the monster cards to determine what each monster does on his turn. When you are done with your villain phase, the player to your left begins his or her turn, and the whole process starts over again. Now, you win by completing the objectives in the adventure you are playing. So what sets this one apart from previous versions, you might be wondering? Well, some of the things are, like for one, the campaign is ongoing and a continuing adventure. The quests and monsters scale with each adventure by simply removing and adding cards. There's a new above ground adventure that takes place in town, and in between adventures you can swap powers, sell items, trade treasure cards, gold, and buy advancement tokens, which we'll talk about in a minute. And of course, level up your character. Now, new to this version is advancement tokens. Once you have purchased a token, you may use it at any time during your adventure. It doesn't require an action, and after you use it, then flip it over and it becomes inaccessible until your next adventure. These tokens allow you to re-roll a dice, add a +1 damage, regain 2 health, or recharge a power. Also, traps are much more prevalent in this version. Just about every tile will have some sort of unknown trap. However, these new traps consume only a single square, which causes more obstacles for the heroes to deal with. When attempting to disable a trap, rolling a 1 to 10 is a failure and will trigger that trap immediately. Rolling 11 to 20, you succeed and disable the trap. So some of nice enhancements to this version, but we will leave the bulk of the story, monsters, and villains for you to discover on your own. All right, so what do we think of this game? You know, for me, growing up, I was a huge D&D player. Sadly, not so much anymore, but this, scratches that itch. The whole series of these games do. And I have them all. I mean, it's not like one replaces the other, which is kind of cool because you can interchange monsters, you can interchange characters. Right. So there's a reason to keep all the different versions. Now, this one has all the new D&D rules and things. And it actually expands upon that. Like I said in the overview, that it's a campaign. It fully is a campaign. You can actually track and keep items that you collect through the different adventures and move on and level up and just get new items for your character that lead you through each campaign scenario. So I really like that it has more of a campaign feel than the others did. Yeah. The others were like every mission or whatever was just kind of a one-shot.
Well, yeah, it was a story. There was an overall story, right, but each one had 12 or 13 adventures. Right. And for those of you who haven't played, they're Castle of Ravenloft, Wrath of Ashardalon, Legend of Drizzt, and now this. So as you said, they're a little bit different each time. And if you've been familiar with the games like Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy, where they're changing the game as you go along, this doesn't require you to destroy the board or tear up any cards, but it does give you that feel of you're carrying things over from the previous adventures. So there's a continuity to the adventures that the previous games didn't have.
So that's something I really enjoy about this version, and I like the above ground adventures as well. Because there's town adventures in this one. So
and you can buy stuff.
You can buy stuff. So it definitely has some nice enhancements in the game, and I really, really enjoy it. Now, I feel like there's probably some downtime for folks who haven't really played before, and if you're a major D&D player, it's probably not a game for you, I suspect.
Well, okay, we have a friend who plays with us. In fact, the person who's played most with us is actually an avid D&D player for 20 years, and he enjoys the game.
He does.
But it's all about expectations. For people coming to this game expecting it to replace their normal D&D adventures, it won't. But it is good for bringing other people into a quick D&D-like adventure, people who might not have played D&D before or might not want to commit the time. This is a quick, play a couple games, spend a couple hours, walk away, and not to spend a lot of time learning rules, developing characters, and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, our buddy Steve, who we play with, every holiday we get together and we just spend a day playing through several scenarios. So that's super enjoyable, and it gives me, like I said, that fulfills that itch to play the old school D&D that I used to play. So the game really appeals to me, and it's just been really fun. Now, some of the things that the game you have to be prepared for is that it is exceptionally brutal. it is cooperative, and the game is out to kill you
No
big
question.
time.
It's a masochistic experience, but this is what makes a good cooperative and collaborative game. Is
Very
you're
much.
all sharing this, and you're all trying to decide. Well, I just know over this encounter card, and it's just going to totally toast me, and probably some of the rest of the team too. So should we spend our common encounter points to get rid of it, or our experience points? Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's good in that aspect. But as you said, don't expect this to be easy. Now, the thing that Elemental Evil does, the previous ones don't. It's not just a question of it's a campaign that carries things forward. It also adjusts the diffiulty.
Yeah, which is nice.
Don't make the mistake of shuffling all the cards together when you first start out, because what it does is when you end the game, it says if you ended with all the healing surges, you didn't use any of them at all, you'll add tougher characters in
You'll
there.
be stacking the deck throughout,
to make it more challenging and engaging for you in the future. If you barely made it by the skin of your teeth, then it makes it a little bit easier for you in the future. And so the whole point is to constantly level the difficulty of the game with your skill so that you continue to be engaged rather than just feeling beat up.
Right, and we really felt like you just getting through the skin of your teeth, right? It's more. It feels a little more winnable because of that than the previous versions. Because some of those other versions, it was just completely brutal to get through.
Do not start with Castle of Ravenloft. That is just
definitely. And there's been rule enhancements throughout all the different versions that have really helped.
Yeah.
So, but this game gets pretty high marks for me. Not in every category, but of its overall rating, I'm going to give it 3 corners out of 4.
It's interesting you say that. I give it a solid 3 corners out of 4 as well. This game does have some of the same strengths the previous games did. It's got great miniatures. They do a good job of making you feel like you're encountering that monster. One of the things I don't like about it regarding the miniatures is the fact we're always trying to figure out which. We turned over a card. It's like, oh, it's the bugbear. Well, where's the bugbear? It's like that. So they don't. You can, if you see it. I mean, they have the raised lettering.
They were a little more different colors. Yeah, color variation.
Color variation would have been nice
because I'm not a painter, right?
Neither am I. And they also, speaking of painting, they made the big monsters here the same color as your
heroes,
player characters, and I think that's kind of an oversight.
It really should have been different colors.
The last complaint I have about components is the fact that you can buy things, cool little things like re-roll and add to your damage and things like that in the towns, but they're little kind of faceless generic things like this, and I would have liked to have seen more character here. But overall, it does still bring a lot of the quality in terms of the pieces, good quality cardboard, thick cardboard pieces, very readable cards, and of course great monsters. And all the monsters in each deck are different. So this time we have this great big vicious looking dragon,
which is really cool. Yeah. So as much as we nitpick, these figures are still really nice, really high quality.
Some of the best you see out there.
Yeah, it's very cool. So if you're looking for a way to fulfill that D&D itch, and you can't really play D&D on a regular basis, I feel like this does it for me. Yeah. So your mileage may vary,
but it is. I gave it a little bit over average in terms of learnability because we have brought people in this fairly quickly. Yeah, if you and your friends have never played before and you're opening the box for the first time, it might be a bit of a challenge. But as you bring new people in after you've experienced it, I think it's fairly quick to do.
Yeah,
so overall, I think it's a very, very good, very playable game with lots of replayability.
It moves pretty well.
It does.
Once everybody learns how to play and you remember the sequence of everything,
it goes pretty well.
Yep. So anyway, that's our review this week, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.